Hello and welcome to this session of Execunet Fresh Start. I'm your host, as always, Tony Vlahos, and today we're exploring a career path that many executives are considering: franchise business ownership. So let me ask everyone who's filtering into the virtual room. I see many of you are already in, and some of you are still entering. By a show of clicks, okay, where if you would use the chat box, just let me know if you were to rate your serious level, 5 being I'm super serious about making a shift right now, and 1 being, Tony, I'm just kind of curious, getting my feet wet. Let me know. So if you're a 5, please chat in. It would be really important to me and Pete to understand this. If you're more like a 1, just kind of curious, but not really ready, serious-minded, just let us know. Thank you. People are chatting and that's very helpful. So whether you are in fact considering it as a side venture or a full-time pursuit, franchising can offer great income security, career control, and a much more fulfilling professional life. And to guide us through this and answer all your questions today, we have, as always, Pete Gilfillan, who is a leading franchise consultant. He's the best-selling author of the book Hire Yourself, and he's Execunet's top entrepreneurial coach. Pete has helped literally hundreds upon hundreds of executives navigate the franchise landscape. And today, as I said, he's going to take your questions after he's shared with you his comprehensive overview of this path. And this way you can determine if it's the right one for you.
Thanks, Tony. It is a pleasure to be here again. My name is Pete Gilfillan, and I am an entrepreneur, the best-selling author of the book Hire Yourself, a nationally recognized franchise consultant, and a proud corporate escapee. And I'm excited for today's webinar because we're going to talk about how you can own your future, how you can build wealth through a side or a full-time franchise business. See, I'm going to teach you how to build income security from that standpoint, how you can build wealth, take control of the destiny of your own future. And the idea behind this is that you can do this through leveraging what we call the executive model, where you're working on the business, not in the business. And that could be full-time or that could be semi-absentee. It really depends, or what we call part-time ownership. I'm going to teach you all about franchising. I'm going to answer a lot of your questions. So let's get started. So you probably see what I see out today. There are massive layoffs happening. Heck, Southwest, who hasn't laid people off in what, 50 years, they just announced a layoff. Starbucks continues to lay off people, and all other kinds of companies are laying people off. So now is the time to create career and income security through a franchise business. Are you a corporate executive looking to take control of your destiny, to create career and income security? Maybe you want to keep your corporate position, your income, while investing in a side business. Maybe you want to build a supplemental income or diversify your asset income. Or maybe you just want to put a plan in place that allows you to escape that corporate rat race. Maybe you just want to live life on your own terms or just enjoy yourself. If those are any of the cases, then this webinar will be well worth your time. My story, I suspect, sounds like many of yours. I was told to go to college, get a job out of college with a big company and spend your career there. So I graduated from college and I started with Ford Motor Company. And I was fortunate. I got in the executive fast track and I found myself running a very large business for Ford, the Midwest region. We supported 600 dealers in 10 states, about $5 billion in revenue for Ford Motor Company. And I'll never forget back in 2006, late 2006, I'm in a staff meeting with my team members and I get a call from my boss. And my boss proceeded to offer me a voluntary separation package. Now, I was blown away. My blood was blue. I lived for it. I had been there for nearly 20 years, and it was my life. We moved all over the country, and I really enjoyed the people, the dealers. It was wonderful. And I was shocked. I was on the fast track, and I couldn't believe they're asking me to leave. And so I went home, and I talked with my wife, and we decided that, heck, let's take the package. Let's go on an adventure and see what we can do next. And I took about 6 months off to just reconnect with my family and recharge. And I found myself at the kitchen table with my wife, and we had 2 opportunities. One, it was an LOI for a business, a small business in my community. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And the second option was a job offer from a company called Terex to run their Americas for their construction group. My wife decided that she felt there was more security in taking the job. So I took the corporate job and I ran the Americas for Terex. And I found myself traveling 5, 6 days a week. And then I got head of global sales and production planning for the construction group. So again, I kept traveling. And it got to the point where I was going to get divorced or disconnected from my kids. I wasn't present in my life. So I walked away from all of it, nothing in hand to find my way, my journey to become an entrepreneur. And the first business I invested in is my Junk King franchise, where I decided to buy the rights to 3 states, buy all the states, and help Junk King find franchisees for those 3 states. And I found that to be very rewarding. I helped executives invest in Junk King franchises. About the same time that I invested in Junk King, I also got invited to join Franchoice. Franchoice is an elite franchise consulting network out there. That way, I could work with executives all over the country to look at all different types of franchises. And that's really where I found my mission. I ultimately sold my Junk King franchise so that I could focus solely on helping people with my Franchoice franchise consulting business. In fact, it put me on a mission to help executives take control of their destiny, to live life on their own terms, and to build wealth. So I wrote the book. It's my path, and it shares lots of great information on searching for your way to escape the corporate world, whether that's right away or, taking time, setting up a side business. I share the journey. So my promise to you is this. I'm going to encourage you to build income security and wealth through a franchise business. And you can either do this full time with the franchise or you can do it part time. Keep your corporate job, keep your business on the side, right? The idea is that it's a really great way to kind of take control. I'm also going to teach you or answer a lot of your questions around franchising and give you some awesome resources. So that's my promise to you. So questions we'll cover today is, why are more corporate executives taking the path of franchise ownership? What is franchising? What is the best franchise for 2025? Why is semi-absentee franchise ownership? What's the investment level to get into franchises? What's the capital requirements? What are good sources of capital? How do I replace my corporate level income through franchising? And how do I find the right franchise business? And we'll even talk about some success stories. So, are you a 50 plus corporate level executive? Are you 50 years old and a corporate executive? And why are more corporate executives taking the path of franchise ownership? Well, the future for corporate executives, I think, is tough. It's going to be a tough road. You see, we're going to see more layoffs. We're going to see more downsizing. And unfortunately, we're seeing underemployment where people are overqualified positions. Maybe they're doing consulting, maybe they're doing contract work. Bottom line is that appears to be the new reality. And bottom line is executives now are changing jobs every 4 years, actually less than 4 years, versus that 30-year career, kind of the way we started out. And you know what? There is, unfortunately, age and unemployment discrimination. If you don't know what unemployment discrimination is, if you've been out of work for more than 6 months, a lot of times companies would rather take somebody that is employed that has less experience than somebody that has been unemployed. And AI is going to have a significant impact on the corporate roles. There's a great article in the Wall Street Journal talking about this, the disappearing white collar job. It's real. And here's an interesting stat. If you're 50 plus year old and you're a corporate executive, 50% of 50 plus year old corporate executives get pushed into retirement or pushed out of their company before they're ready. One more time, 50% of 50 plus year old corporate executives are pushed out of their company before they're ready. And here's a scary stat. Of the ones that get pushed out and find another job, only 10% of them earn more or the same as they did in their prior position. The world is changing. So, why are so many corporate executives taking the path of franchise ownership? I always like to ask people when I work with them, why would you consider investing in franchise? And they say, Pete, I just want to take control of my destiny. I want to have independence. I want to create an income. I want to build an asset that I can sell or it can be a legacy for my family. Pete, I want to be my own boss where I can make the decisions. I can set the direction. Pete, I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact in my community. I want to be engaged. I want to have purpose. I want to be rewarded for my hard work. I don't want some company benefiting from my hard work. I want to have the direct financial benefit for my hard work. I want to build, lead, and mentor a team. Pete, I just want to be happy, satisfied, proud. I want to create a family business where I can include my spouse, my significant other, my kids. Pete, I want to leverage my personal capital to build something for myself. I want to beat ageism. I don't want anybody clocking me out of my career or my income. Simply put, I just want to create career and income security. So let's start with what is franchising and what is trending in franchising? So, what is a franchise? In its simplest form, somebody has figured out a business model. They have all the systems, the process, the procedures, the brand. They built the business model. They've made the mistakes. They built the business. And they are looking for, and we'll call that a franchisor, they're looking for independent owners, franchisees to join them or partner with them as franchisees. And so when you decide you want to partner with a franchise company, you are going to pay a franchise fee. A fee, call it $50,000, $60,000 to use that business model for a period of time. Call it 10 years. All the systems, the process, procedures. And during the term of that partnership, the franchisor is going to provide continuous support. For that continuous support, you as the franchisee are going to pay a royalty. A royalty is generally a percentage of your overall or top line revenue. That could be 5, 6, 7%. Bottom line is you are paying for that support. And I got to tell you, when I talk about franchising, everybody thinks about food. I say franchising, they say Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, Subway. And there is so much more to franchising. You see, there are over 4,000 franchise concepts playing in over 300 industries. There are over 750,000 franchise establishments employing over 8 million people. Franchising is big business and big impact on the US economy. In fact, bottom line is that it contributes a little under a $500 billion to the US economy. Franchising touches every aspect of our life, and most people don't realize that. I use the example for my book. You get up on a Saturday, you go work out. Yeah, that's a franchise. On your way home, you pick up your dry cleaning. Yeah, that's a franchise. You grab a cup of coffee. Yeah, that's a franchise. You get your oil change in your SUV. Yeah, that's a franchise. Then you get home, you pick up your kids, you take them to their martial arts class. Yeah, that's a franchise. You stop off and get a sub sandwich on the way home. Yeah, that's a franchise. When you finally get home, there's a van in your driveway. They wash in the windows of your house. Yeah, that's a franchise. Franchising is touching every aspect of our life. Now, when we talk about franchising, there are two basic business models. So, first, there are service based franchises that go to our homes or businesses and provide a product or service. We use that term B2C or B2B. So, they could come to my home and they could paint my house, they could redo my floors, they could organize my closets, they could give me that great garage or organized garage system. They could paint my kitchen cabinets white. They could do all the handyman services I can't do in my house. They could clean my windows or put new window treatments in. Bottom line is they can come to my home and do stuff. Professionally, they could come to my business and clean my windows. They could clean my facility. They could fix my plumbing. They could restore if I had flood in my facility. They could handle my lawn maintenance. They could handle fixing my HVAC system. Heck, they could give me business coaching. B2B also. And then personal services. They could help my mom who maybe needs a little extra help in her house as she gets older. Maybe she wants to go find a place, a senior living place. They can help her find that. They can help her downsize a place or do an estate sale. So service-based business is one model. The other one is facility-based. So think of that strip mall where somebody takes 2,000 square feet and they create a place where you can get a haircut, you can get a sub sandwich, get a massage. So think of all the businesses that play in there. Health and wellness. I can get a massage. I can go do a Pilates class. I can do a Medi-Spa treatment. I can get weight loss assistance. Or I can get beauty. I could get my hair done. Not me, but most people. You could get your nails done, facials, lash extensions, hair removal. And then there's also, I could get touring for my kids, preschool, martial arts. I could do sports training for my kids. Bottom line is there's all kinds of different business models. So what is the right franchise model for 2025? Well, we're seeing a growing movement. We've seen this for the last couple of years, where franchise ownership, where people work on the business, not in the business. They set the overall direction of the business, while overseeing a manager that manages the business. So this idea that you're kind of leading the business, but you're not doing whatever the business does. So if it's a lawn fertilizing business, you're not fertilizing lawns. If it's a sub shop, you're not making that. You're leading the business. Now, when we specifically talk about levels of engagement, when people invest in a franchise, there is one where people will, the model is the artisan, where people want to work in the business. They, again, want to be the guy or gal doing whatever the business does. That could be lawn fertilizing. They fertilize lawn. Again, they get in a little truck and they go to the next one. Or it could be a sub shop where they're making the subs and all day long, 7 days a week. And if it grows, great, but they're really just creating a job for themselves. That is the artisan. Most of the senior level executives I work with are not interested in the artisan model. Many of them are interested in the executive model. That's where we work on the business, not in the business. So if it's a lawn fertilizing business, we may understand how they fertilize lawns, but we're not fertilizing lawns. If it's a sub shop, we may understand how they make subs, but we're not making subs. We're managing, manager, planning, and marketing. Now, when we talk about the executive model, you can be involved in a full-time, 40 or 50 hours a week leading the business. Or you can be what we call semi-absentee. Keep your corporate job, start the franchise aside, put a manager in place, and watch over that manager 15 or 20 hours a week. You don't have to be involved in it every day, but we need to be minding our business. In both cases, whether you're involved in it full-time or semi-absentee, most people are looking to build something larger, open up multiple locations or multiple territories. So, good examples of executive model semi-absentee franchises. When we talk about those service-based businesses, again, B2C to B2B, RestaPros might be a great example where they do restoration for homeowners and businesses. So if I have water in my basement or water in my business, they come take that out. That would be an example where you could keep your corporate job and start the franchise side with the manager on the service side. On a facility side basis, you could think about like a club Pilates where I can go do a Pilates class. You could keep your corporate job, start the Pilates studio on the side, have a manager, watch over that manager 15 to 20 hours a week. So when we talk about semi-absentee ownership, why? Why do people do so much semi-absentee? Well, you can keep your corporate position while starting a franchise on the side. That's really cool. So you can leverage that model to create that side business. You can keep your corporate position and, most importantly, income while you're starting the business. Like when I left the corporate world, I walked away flat $300,000 job to go start investing in a business. If I would have done semi-absentee, I could have kept that corporate income and started the business on the side. Maybe it would have been an easier path. And after the business is established, well, then you can really kind of lock in having that manager, watching over that manager 15 to 20 hours a week, or we call that semi-absentee. So executives are leveraging the semi-absentee model to start the business side because, again, they can leverage their corporate income while starting the business on the side. They can diversify their assets and their income, which is a really good thing in today's world to protect yourself. And creating a supplemental income is a form of protection because you have that income. So if something happens, if somebody clocks you out of your position, sets you aside, lays you off, you have that income. You have a bridge now to go pivot from that standpoint. And it is, I call it a nice way to create a way to escape the corporate world or escape the corporate rat race. If you remember anything from today's webinar, remember that jobs are no longer income security. Yes, when I started back in the day, over 30 years ago in the corporate world, I got to tell you, that was income security. It is not anymore. There is no loyalty anymore. You could be laid off at any point. That's just the reality of it. When you have a business, nobody will furlough you. Nobody will fire you. Nobody will set you aside. Bottom line is you're in control of your future. You have true income security when you have your own business. So when we talk about investing in a franchise, what are the investment levels or the minimum investment levels? So as we talk about investment levels for franchises, there is a significant range. And specifically, when we talk about service-based businesses, they tend to be lower investments. And you can kind of think about that the total investment for a service-based business will be something greater than $100,000. And that investment really depends on the type of equipment, the size of the territory, working capital requirements. Now, when we talk about that strip mall, that facility-based franchise concept, we're taking that space. Well, now the investment goes up because we have to build out that space. So the total investment is something greater than $200,000 for a facility-based franchise concept. Again, it based on the size of the facility, the type of build out, all that kind of stuff. But it's always going to be something greater than $200,000. Now, as we think about franchising, what are the capital requirements to get into a franchise? And what are good sources of capital? Well, when we think about the idea of capital requirements, there are two capital requirements when it comes to franchising. So, first, all franchises require us to have so much liquid capital. Now, the eyes of franchising, liquid capital is very loosely defined. It could be cash, stocks, bonds, equity that you have in your home, that you tap through a home equity line. It could be retirement dollars. Instead of investing in stocks or bonds, your retirement account actually invests in your business through what we call the ROPS program. So it's anything but an SBA loan is primarily considered liquid capital. The second requirement is overall net worth. You have to have so much net worth to qualify for a franchise. In fact, you need a minimum of $100,000 net worth to even be considered for a franchise business. And remember, net worth is assets minus liabilities equal net worth. Now, fortunately, we're in a world now where there's a lot of capital available. I like to call this the funding wheel. There are many different funding sources. One of those funding sources is SBA loans, Small Business Administration loans. The SBA is not loaning you the money. It's a financial institution is loaning the money, but the SBA is guaranteeing that loan. So, by the nature of it, SBA loans are a little bit more. They're prime plus a couple points in terms of a floating interest rate. You're going to pay origination fees, closing fees, and it does take some time to get an SBA loan, but it is a good resource. Another resource, funding resource, would be a traditional loan. You don't see this as much because a lot of times you need industry experience, but it is available for the right people. Some franchisors actually do in-house franchise funding. They will be a funding source or internal funding. You don't see as much of that because there's so much capital available, but it sometimes is there. A lot of people use equity in their home. It's one of their biggest assets. They leverage a home equity line to fund their business. Or simply put, take that frozen capital in their house and put it to work for them building a business. Some people use friends and family money. Some people use outside investors. A lot of people in today's environment are using their retirement dollars. In a tax compliant way, they use their retirement dollars. Instead of investing stocks and bonds, it actually invests in your business. Yes, your retirement account owns your franchise business. And a lot of people are leveraging their brokerage or their portfolio lines to fund their business. Now, the cool thing with all these different funding sources is that you can leverage them to scale your business. In fact, you can use combinations of revenue sources to fund your business. Let's use a quick example. Let's say you're going to open up 3 franchise businesses. And the first one, you decide that you're going to fund it by using $90,000 worth of cash and $210,000 in an SBA loan for a total of $300,000. Now, when it's time to open up your second location or develop your second territory, you decide to take a home equity line of $90,000 plus take some retirement dollars, $210,000 through the ROBS program for a total of $300,000. Now, when it's time to do your third, maybe you do a little bit more retirement dollars through the ROBS program of $90,000, and you go do a conventional loan for $210,000 for a total of $300,000. So there's many combinations of ways in which you can leverage your capital to fund franchise expansion. One of the questions people always ask me is, can I replace my corporate level income through franchising? And the answer is very simple. The financial performance of a franchise business depends 100% on you. But I can tell you with utmost certainty that it takes time and scale to replace a large corporate income. And only you can determine how much time and scale it's going to take to replace your corporate level income. I could never tell you that. You have to, through your due diligence, determine how much time and scale it's going to take you with any franchise business to replace that corporate level income. Let's go through a fun example. Let's just say you go through today's webinar and you say, listen, I'm a corporate executive. I'm not doing this. I'm not investing in a franchise. That would be the left-hand column. Let's say you make $200,000 today, and over the next couple of years, you get raises. And after 5 years, your income has went to $240,000 salary. Unfortunately, if something happens, that goes away. You're renting your income. That goes away when you get laid off. Now, let's say that you decide to sit through this webinar and you're going to invest in a franchise. You're going to leave the corporate world and you're just going to invest in a franchise. That is the large column in the middle where you decide you're going to open up 3 locations of a franchise. The first year, you just get the first location open. Year 2, you take salary from the first location and you just get the second location open. Year 3, you take 75,000 from the first business, 50 from the second, and you just get the third location. Now it gets interesting in year 4, where you take $100,000 for salary from the first, 75 from the second, 50 from the third. Now you're pretty much on top of what you made in the corporate world. And then it booms. Year 5, you take 125 from your first location, $100,000 worth of income from the second, 75 from the third. Now you have an income of $300,000. Plus, you built an asset that you could sell or could be a legacy of your family, and nobody can take this income from you. Now, let's say you sat through today and you said, Pete, I want to do the executive model semi-absentee. I want to keep my corporate job and I want to invest in a side business and grow and scale that. That will be represented by the red box. So if you sat through this webinar, you said, listen, I'm going to keep my corporate job. I'm going to start that business on the side. I'm going to build and grow it. You would end up after 5 years, let's say, keeping your corporate income at $240,000. You built a secondary income of $300,000. You built an asset you could sell. Bottom line is you are now in control of your future. And again, these are all fictitious numbers. It takes time and scale, and only you can determine how much time and scale. But that is the power of the executive model semi-absentee ownership. Now, how do I find the right franchise? So when you're trying to find a franchise that fits you, you have to understand or know what characteristics you're looking for in a business. You need to know, what do you want to accomplish with the business? And you want to leverage a proven investigation or due diligence process to evaluate the opportunities that are in front of you. And I always encourage people as they try to find the right franchise is to keep an open mind. We have a lot of preconceived notions about businesses, and we want to have an open mind because the one you're going, I just don't know about that. Bottom line is that can be an awesome business. You just need to learn more. You just need to keep an open mind. And I always tell people when you go look or evaluate franchise business opportunities, I encourage you to have fun. Until you write the check and sign the franchise agreement, you're not a franchisee. So have fun learning about businesses. It's really cool to talk to some great people, learn about some cool businesses. So you got to enjoy the journey of trying to find the right business. And remember, don't ever turn your hobby into a business. There's a great book I love to give to people. It's called E-Myth Revisited. E-Myth Revisited is about working on the business, not in the business. But more importantly, it has a great case study in there. It talks about this wonderful lady. She had a hobby. She loved baking and she had all her grandma's recipes. And she decided that she was going to follow her hobby and she was going to open up a bakery. She loved baking. So she started out and she had employees in all the positions, and one thing left to another. And she found herself doing all the roles in the business, getting up at 3 a.m, doing the baking, running the bakery all day long, cleaning the bakery at night, going home, doing her books, getting her 3 hours of sleep, and going back to the business the next day. She couldn't understand why she hated baking. We do not take our hobby and turn it into a business. The definition of a hobby is something we do outside of work. Don't ruin your hobby. Now, when we're looking for a franchise, there are kind of 3 ways. I'll call them good, better, and best to find a franchise business. Good is there are all kinds of websites that you can click boxes on different franchise concepts and they'll give you information. And this is great. You get lots of information. Unfortunately, your information may be sold to franchise companies, to franchise consultants. Bottom line is you may be inundated with people reaching out to you about franchise opportunities. Maybe a better way is if you see a business you like, go to their website and see if they have franchise opportunities and connect with them. Unfortunately, when we go direct to a company, you're going into their sales pipeline and there's nobody helping you through the journey of exploring that business. That's why the best way is to leverage a franchise consultant like me. It's a free service. They help you understand what you're looking for, what you want to accomplish with the business. Go look for franchises that align with your interest and then help you through the process. So this is kind of how I would assist you if you went through the process. 1, I'd have you fill out a simple questionnaire. It takes 10 minutes. It's pretty basic. Once you complete the questionnaire, then we do a consultation call. We just get on the phone and talk for 75 minutes where I'm learning about you. I'm asking questions. I'm listening. I'm taking notes. At the end, I'll summarize back what I heard you say. I'll create a written summary of your interest and then go look for franchises that align with those interests. I do leverage a company called Franchise. They've been screening franchises for over 20 years. I'll find franchises align with your interest. I'll connect you to those companies. And as you start your due diligence, I'll be there by your side. Think of me as a coach, teaching you, preparing you. I'll give you resources. When it's time to make that big decision to invest all your capital in business, I'll even help you fight the fear that happens from this standpoint. So when we evaluate business opportunities or franchises, we like to call it the franchise investigation procedures, the steps that you go through to evaluate franchises. As we discussed earlier, as we think about this idea of finding our franchise, we have to understand what characteristics we're looking for in a business. What do we want to accomplish? We also have to determine what level of engagement. Do I want to be an artisan? Do I want executive model full time? Do I want to be involved in a semi-absentee? What type of customers do we want? Then we go find franchises that align with the interest and we start our due diligence or the investigation process. In fact, there are 4 core steps that you go through in about a 4-week period of time. The 4 steps are one is the introduction call. That's where they'll give you a great overview of the franchise concept. They'll answer a lot of your questions and you guys will start forming a relationship. The second step is what we call the franchise disclosure document. The acronym is FDD. All franchises must have this. It's designed to ensure that you're an informed investor. Everything you need to know about the business opportunity is in the FDD. The third step is validation, your chance to talk to actual franchise owners within the franchise system without the franchisor present. And once you build rapport, you can ask them the financial questions they'll answer. That is the best way to really assess a franchise business, is talking to actual franchise owners. And the fourth step is what we call confirmation day, discovery day, meet the team day. It's all the same term. It's about the relationship. You're feeling good about the franchisor, they're feeling good about you. They invite you out to the corporate headquarters. Think of this as kind of a mutual approval day. Now, all franchise companies have other little steps in between these 4 steps that you'll go through as due diligence. They may have a unit economics call. They may have a call that helps you understand the territory or a territory mapping call. They may have a leadership call. They may have a call to take you through their customer acquisition model. The idea is these are little steps by comparison to the 4 steps you go through. Now, things to consider when you're investigating franchises. One, we want to look at the experience of the leadership team. You see, it's one thing to run a business with a small, just one location. It's another to run a franchise system that has 100 franchisees in it. We also want to look, hey, when I become a franchisee, what support do I get for the launch? What kind of training do I get when I become a franchisee? We also want to look at, are franchisees satisfied in the business? Are current operators happy? Are they making money, right? So we want to understand franchisee satisfaction. We want to understand the image or the reputation of the franchise business. We want to look at the size of the franchise system. Do they have 5 franchisees or 500 franchisees? Is it a new franchise that they've just started in 2024, or have they been around for 20 years? What's the culture and the feel of the organization? Does it feel like you're joining a family business or a Fortune 1000 business? What's the marketing model? How do you acquire customers? And what kind of support, ongoing support, are you going to get from the franchisors? Will you have a coach that meets with you on a monthly basis? What is the support? And if it's a facility-based concept, how do they help you find the location and build out the facility? And certainly another thing we want to consider is the overall financial strength of the franchise company. So people always ask me, this franchising sounds great, but is it still a good time to invest in a franchise? And I say, yes, it's still a good time to invest in a franchise. You see, there's a lot of liquidity in the marketplace. There's a lot of capital that is available out there to help fund your business. And whether we like it or not, the equity market is very volatile and it's going to continue. Maybe we can follow Warren Buffett's path where he's moving stuff out of equities into cash and he's diversifying. He's planning from that standpoint. Maybe it's time to take a little bit of profits and take that money and diversify. Maybe that's a franchise or a side business. And interest rates will continue to decline, maybe not as fast as we thought they were, but they will continue to decline. And the future of corporate downsizing, it's going to continue. We talked about that. There's no more security. Protect yourself now by setting up a business. And franchise business opportunities are booming. There are thousands of franchise concepts and more coming online every day. And we are now in a gig economy. It has never been easier to start a business. So, why do people go through this process of exploring franchise businesses and they don't invest in a franchise? Well, there's multiple different reasons. Sometimes people go through the process and they decide franchising isn't for them. And that's perfectly fine. Franchising is not for everybody. It's great for a lot of people, but it's not for everybody. And it takes a lot of work to evaluate franchises. It's good 15 to 20 hours of due diligence. And some people aren't willing to put the time in. And if you don't put your time in, you can't invest in a franchise. You got to put your due diligence in. And some people have fear and anxiety. We call fear and anxiety false evidence appearing real. It just locks them up. They can't make a decision. And if we can't make a decision, that is a decision. That's a no decision. But fear can really stop people from moving forward. Some people don't have the capital to invest in a franchise. Some people still believe a job equals income security. There is, I believe, nothing further from the truth in today's world. Jobs are no longer income security. When you own a business, you're in control of your income. And some people have a maverick mentality. It's my way, the highway. A franchise would not be good for them. We follow a system. That doesn't mean we can't make the system better, but at a minimum with a franchise, we follow the system to be successful. And sometimes people's friends and family prevent them from investing in a business. I think of one candidate I was working with. His family decided they would do a family vote to see if they would allow him to invest in a franchise. The family voted down his dream. And some people aren't capable of making a decision. And again, if you can't make a decision, that is a no decision. Now, over the years, Tony and I have had the opportunity to host several of these webinars. And we have executives just like you tune in. They listen to the webinar and they say, I want to learn a whole bunch more about that. And they contact me and they go through the process and they ultimately invest in a franchise and they go off and they're successful and they come back to us and Tony and I have interviewed them and they share their success stories. And we'll give you a couple. John Weiss, a senior level executive, he was also an entrepreneur. He had done multiple startup businesses and he decided he wanted to get back to being an entrepreneur, but he didn't want to start from ground zero. He wanted to leverage a franchise business model to basically get back to being an entrepreneur. So he did that and he invested in a bunch of salon suites and grew that out to multiple locations. Mike Furnish, a senior level executive, wanted to keep his corporate job, start the franchise on the side. Remember, we use the term today, executive model, semi-absentee. So he tells his story of keeping his corporate job and starting multiple franchises on the side. And Jim Griffin, senior level executive, was done with the corporate world, wanted the executive model full time, wanted to lead the business and open up multiple locations where he had managers in each. So he shares his story of investing in a health and wellness franchise in multiple different states. I talked to him. He's doing awesome recently. That's the idea of this whole business model is understanding how it works best for you. You know, if you're sitting here today and you're going, this has caught my interest. I want to learn more. I will give you some great resources. Number one, I will give you some of my time, which is time is my number one resource. I will give you some time. You can schedule a quick call with me. We can spend a little time. You can tell me a little bit about your situation. I can tell you a little bit more about how I can help you explore franchises. I will give you a free copy, a paperback copy of my book from that standpoint. So you have that. I'll give you the franchise investigation guide or investment guide, another great resource. So if you're just kind of thinking, hey, I want to learn more, all you have to do is go to the hireyourself.com/execunet offer, schedule a time with me, put your information there. I'll get you a free copy of the book, all that good stuff. So I'm here if you need me. You know, in summary, if you're a corporate executive looking to take control of your destiny, or maybe you want to create career and income securities, maybe you just want to build that supplemental income, or maybe you want to create a bridge to escape the corporate world, or maybe you just want to diversify your assets, your income, whatever reason it is, if you want to learn more about franchising and a path that can help you do that, I am here for you. And with that, Tony, I'm going to turn it over for questions.
All right, Pete, we do have a few questions. We'll get to those in just a moment, but I want to touch base again with people who chatted in at the very top of our hour and told me, well, I'm kind of a one, Tony. I'm kind of a three, Tony. In other words, my serious or interest level is lower. And I will add that we had someone who said I'm a five, and they're scheduling. They're talking to Pete while we're listening to him. The point is this: if you've listened, if you've become intrigued at all about the possibility of what this could mean for you. Pete used the terms stop renting your income. He said take control. He said build the security for your career and your income that all of us want. And here's the other bonus. Talking to him will cost you nothing except your time. Who was it? Ben Franklin who said, it's really a great investment just getting a little bit of knowledge. That's what this is, folks. So I'm going to encourage everyone who said you're a one or a three, and thank you to those that are a five, make the call. Follow this link that was chatted to you earlier and the link you're seeing on your screen, the URL, in other words, and schedule time. Pete will talk to you about your personal situation, your goals, what you're after, what might be in your way. And in the end, guess what? You're going to make the choice, not Pete. He's not going to make the decision for you. But this is an opportunity, a golden one, to learn from someone who knows better than anyone what it takes, as he's proved today, and what this could mean for you. After that, you decide. So I'm going to encourage you all, please do this as a favor to yourselves so that you don't look back 6 months, a year from now, after layoffs, after takeovers, after all that nonsense, and say, why didn't I? Right? Let's do that. Okay. Pete, the question we always get is the one we got to kick things off. How does Pete Gilfillan get paid? Who pays? Does the executive who talks to you and moves forward ever pay you, Pete?
No, they never pay me. My service is free to the executives. And so, other than your very valuable time, my services cost you nothing. So, how do I get compensated? Well, if you go through the process and you decide to invest in a franchise, I get a referral fee from the franchisor, very similar to like how an executive recruiter is compensated. And second, I hope when I do an awesome job for you that you refer me to others that they can benefit from my services too.
Hmm. Okay, that's great. A lot of people always wonder, do I need to be a pro at marketing? I have no sales experience, Pete. Does that mean that this isn't for me?
That's the beauty of the franchise model. You don't have to be an expert in sales. You don't have to be an expert in marketing. You can hook into a franchise system. You bring your business acumen, your leadership skills, and you plug into the business model. In many cases, when we talk about the executive model, semi absentee, you're actually going to have a salesperson, or maybe the franchise doesn't even require you to have a salesperson. They've got a call center that they schedule customers for you. The idea behind it is you don't have to have years of sales or marketing experience. That's why you have a franchise system, is to help you through that.
Mhm. And that semi-absentee model seems like such a effective, smart way to manage down your risk because, you're kind of taking a step and you're not putting it all in one basket. So when you're in that situation, or if you're thinking about this as a full-time venture, Pete, the question is, how can I be sure that I will succeed? Because again, that's the biggest risk of failure. What do you tell people when they ask you that question? How will I succeed?
I think the idea is that with business there is always risk. You can't eliminate the risk. What we try to do with the franchise is mitigate the risk. And the idea is that somebody has built a franchise system. They've done all the systems, the process, procedures. They've figured out the mistakes. And if you bring your business acumen and your leadership skills and you follow the system, you're going to make less mistakes. And less mistakes save you capital in business. And that's a lifeblood of business. It will also save you time. So if you can save time and capital, you have a greater chance of success. Now, we can have the same business model and we can have two people invest in that same business model, and one person is wildly successful and one isn't. And it kind of comes down to some core factors that lead to success. Number one is that we have to work hard when we launch a business. It just takes power and energy to get off a business. And some people think because a franchise business has the systems and procedures, it doesn't take much work to get a business going. It takes work. That's just the way it is. Number two is that you can have the best franchise system, all the process and stuff like that. But if you invest in a franchise and you don't follow the system, that leads to disaster. Now, there are really smart people that invest in franchise and they don't follow the system, and it hurts them. So we follow the system. That doesn't mean we can't make the system better, but at a minimum, we follow the system. We also want to make sure that we are making the call on issues or problems. We solve problems from that standpoint. So the idea is we want to solve problems, business owners to solve problems. And some people, they just want to blame the problems on others. It doesn't make a difference as a business owner. We need to solve problems. And last is that we need to lead. In today's world, it's not about just telling people what to do. You have to acquire good people, A players, and you have to lead them, have them part of a cause. It's not about whether I make $15 or $17 an hour. People now want to be part of something, helping something get better, helping people. So there's no certainty that you're going to be successful, but if you find the right business, you work hard, you follow the system, you solve those problems, you treat people right, you got a great probability of success.
Okay, well, folks, Pete's probably exhausted. He has shared so much in such a concentrated period of time. He laughs, but he works hard and he knows what he's talking about. So with that, we're going to say thank you, Pete, for your time today, for sharing your insight. As always, thank you all for tuned in and had those questions. And also just, we're in a place where you're wondering, because that's good, wondering about how better things can be is the great start, right? So take the next step. Follow the link, talk to Pete, and make that informed choice for yourselves. With that, thank you all. I wish you a pleasant afternoon, and I hope we all get together again real soon. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
All right, bye for now.